Good morning. We pass on from chapter 12 now, where Isaiah was singing that particular psalm and rejoicing, and even pointing out that all the kingdoms of the world would be worshipping God on that particular day. Now he turns back to Babylon again. He has this fascination with Babylon. And turning back to Babylon, he talks about its destruction, its absolute destruction. So we begin to realize immediately he's not really talking about the Babylon that Cyrus conquered. He's not talking about the Babylon that we know at the present time. He's talking about a Babylon which will exist in the future. And the Apostle John in Revelation picks up on this. And he talks about this Babylon as well and says it'll be the center of all sin. Now, I think I mentioned a couple of days ago about the Antichrist coming and taking the seat of government and establishing it. Where was he going to establish it? We all recognize that New York was the wrong place for the United Nations. And I said that one of the best places he could think of would be Babylon, because there they have all that they need. What with internet connections and satellite station above them, they can communicate with anywhere in the world. They can meet in large assemblies quite simply through things like the Zoom account or other means which will then be available. They have ample power because the sun is always shining there. They can get solar power. They've got plenty of water because the Euphrates is flowing past there. It could become a place in its own right. And Isaiah sees it becoming a place in its own right. But then he also recognizes the Antichrist who will come to power in that place. And he says that God is going to rise up and he's literally going to destroy the wicked one. He's going to come against him. Not just the representative, the Antichrist, but the force that actually lies behind him. Ezekiel was going to do the same thing, but he was going to use the city of Tyre and the force that lay behind Tyre. But Isaiah wants to take the force that is going to be lying behind Babylon. See, as far as Isaiah is concerned, the whole history of the world is a story of two cities. The one is Jerusalem, the other is Babylon. The one is the city of God, the other is the place where evil resides. And he talks about this place being destroyed. And the amazing thing is, he talks about darkness. He says God brings darkness upon it. See, if that place is depending on solar power in order to have it or run all its facilities, then the one thing that would be terrible is if somehow the sun is darkened so that they can no longer get this particular power and all of their effectiveness becomes as nothing. So Isaiah is talking about this end-time Babylon in chapter 13. But in chapter 14, he takes a big step. And he talks about the force that lies behind the ruler of Babylon, even behind the Antichrist. He is in fact talking about the great angel Lucifer who fell from heaven. And he's talking about this last battle. You see, Isaiah's vision goes right the way from the beginning of time to the very end of time. Let us just look at it for a moment and see what he says. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations, who said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphar. See, Isaiah sees this rebellion in heaven. Lucifer, the firstborn, we are told, of all the angels, the firstborn seraph, the greatest of all the angelic beings, suddenly thinks, why should I be subject to God? I would raise my throne above the heavens. Now the amazing thing is, we're also told, again from Revelation, when John sees the vision of the dragon, that a third of the stars were wiped out through this rebellion. In other words, a third of the angelic host, and they might number billions of the most powerful beings that you can ever imagine. A third of them fell into rebellion with Lucifer and decided to rebel against God. Yes, they said, Lucifer, you can be God. We will worship you. I will set my throne above the heavens. And now Isaiah sees the effects of this. And the effects of it has been to bring sin into the world. Because you have to realize that when man fell because Satan was at war with God. Satan wanted to try and defeat God's plan. You know, he caused man to fall, to try and come against God in this particular way. Jesus would come into the world to destroy the power of that particular sin and to take it away. That's the only way it could be overcome. And God is willing to pay that price to overcome what Satan has done. Now he's been put down and brought into control. Yes, he will ascend above the tops of the clouds, he said. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead in the depths of the pit. That is going to be his final outcome. And somehow Isaiah is able to see it. Amen.